The United States has long viewed Latin America as its own backyard, a region to be influenced and controlled. This perception is deeply rooted in the Monroe Doctrine of 1823, a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy. The doctrine boldly declared U.S. hegemony over the Americas, asserting dominance over the Western Hemisphere. It sternly warned European powers against any form of interference in the region, effectively drawing a line in the sand. This was, in many ways, a thinly veiled land grab, cloaked in the language of protection and sovereignty. Over the years, the US used this doctrine to justify numerous interventions, invasions, and the installation of puppet regimes across Latin America. From the banana republics of Central America to the coup-ridden South, the US cast a long and often oppressive shadow. This was the era of the United Fruit Company, a powerful symbol of US corporate exploitation and economic dominance. It was a time when democratically elected governments were frequently toppled, often with US backing. All these actions were taken to protect US business interests, ensuring American companies could operate freely and profitably. The people of Latin America paid the price for this interference, enduring political instability and economic hardship. This long history of interventionism bred deep resentment and fueled widespread anti-American sentiment across the region. Latin Americans had not forgotten the past. The memories of US dominance and exploitation lingered. The wounds of US imperialism ran deep, leaving scars that would take generations to heal. These wounds made the region ripe for the picking by a new power, one that offered a different approach, a power that promised partnership instead of paternalism, cooperation instead of control. China's arrival in Latin America was subtle at first, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye. It began with trade delegations and cultural exchanges, fostering a sense of mutual understanding and respect. Unlike other powers, it did not come with warships and ultimatums, but with a peaceful approach. It came with smiles and promises of investment, focusing on building long-term relationships. This was a stark contrast to the heavy-handed approach of the US-China, saw an opportunity where others saw a challenge. Latin America was rich in resources, from minerals to fertile agricultural lands. It had a growing consumer market, eager for new products and opportunities, and crucially, it was disillusioned with the US, tired of the old ways of doing things. China positioned itself as a partner, not a patron, emphasizing equality and mutual benefit. It offered loans without the strings of the IMF or the World Bank, providing much-needed financial support. It promised development without the baggage of history, focusing on the future rather than the past. This approach resonated with Latin American leaders who were eager for change. They were tired of being lectured by Washington, seeking a new path forward. They were weary of being treated as junior partners, longing for a relationship of equals. China offered a way out, a new direction that promised respect and collaboration. It offered a path to development on their own terms, allowing Latin America to chart its own course. The Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, is China's ambitious plan to connect Asia, Africa and Europe through a vast network of infrastructure projects. This initiative aims to enhance trade routes and foster economic cooperation across continents. Latin America, though geographically distant, was not excluded from this grand vision. The region's strategic importance and untapped potential made it a key target for Chinese investment. China saw the potential to integrate the region into its global network, forging new partnerships and economic ties. The BRI is about more than just roads and bridges. It's a comprehensive plan that includes various types of infrastructure. It's about ports, railways, energy pipelines, and telecommunications networks, all designed to facilitate smoother and faster trade. It's about creating a web of interconnectedness that binds countries to China economically, making trade more efficient and fostering mutual growth. It's about projecting Chinese influence across the globe, establishing China as a central player in international affairs. In Latin America, the BRI has been met with enthusiasm by some. They see it as a transformative opportunity. They see it as an opportunity to modernize their infrastructure, bringing long-needed improvements to their transportation and logistics networks. They see it as a way to boost their economies, creating jobs and stimulating growth in various sectors. However, others are wary of China's motives. They question the long-term implications of such investments. They see the BRI as a potential debt trap, fearing that their countries might fall into unsustainable financial obligations. They fear becoming economically dependent on China, losing control over their own economic futures and sovereignty. China's economic strategy in Latin America is multifaceted. It goes beyond the BRI. It involves a combination of loans, investments, and trade deals. This approach has allowed China to rapidly expand its influence. Chinese loans have financed a wide range of projects, from highways to hydroelectric dams. These loans often come with fewer conditions than those from Western institutions. This makes them attractive to governments facing financial constraints. However, these loans can also create a cycle of debt. China has also become a major investor in Latin America. It has poured billions into mining, energy, and agriculture. These investments create jobs and boost economic growth. However, they also raise concerns about environmental degradation and labor exploitation. Section 5, Beyond Trade, Infrastructure and Development. China's focus on infrastructure development has been particularly effective. Latin American countries have long suffered from a lack of investment in this area. This has hampered their economic growth. China has stepped in to fill this void. From gleaming new ports to sprawling highways, China's footprint is visible across the region. These projects are not just about facilitating trade, they're about modernizing economies. They're about improving people's lives. This has earned China goodwill among the population. This approach stands in stark contrast to the US, which has neglected infrastructure development in the region for decades. The US has been more focused on security and counter-narcotics efforts. These efforts have done little to improve the lives of ordinary people. China, on the other hand, is delivering tangible results. Section 6, a red tide, the political and military dimension. China's influence in Latin America is not limited to economics. It is also expanding its political and military ties in the region. This has raised concerns in Washington. China has strengthened diplomatic relations with Latin American countries. It has opened new embassies and consulates. It has increased high-level visits. This diplomatic offensive is aimed at building trust and influence. China has also increased its military presence in the region. It has conducted joint military exercises with Latin American countries. It has sold them military equipment. While China's military presence is still dwarfed by that of the US, it is a growing trend that is being closely watched. Section 7. Seducing the masses, the allure of the Chinese model. China's economic success has not gone unnoticed in Latin America. Many see the Chinese model of state-led capitalism as an attractive alternative to the Washington Consensus. The Washington Consensus, with its emphasis on privatization and liberalization, has left many Latin American countries disillusioned. They have seen their economies stagnate. They have seen inequality rise. They are now looking for a different path to development. China offers a model of strong state intervention in the economy. It offers a model of rapid growth and poverty reduction. This model resonates with many Latin Americans who are looking for an alternative to neoliberalism. Section 8. The eagle has landed and failed US blunders in Latin America. While China has been strategically expanding its influence, the US has been blundering. Its policies towards Latin America have been characterized by neglect, arrogance, and a lack of understanding. The US has often treated Latin America as an afterthought. It has failed to engage with the region on its own terms. It has taken its relationship with the region for granted. This has created an opening for China. The US has also clung to outdated policies that have alienated many in the region. Its support for right-wing dictators during the Cold War left a legacy of resentment. Its focus on counter-narcotics efforts has militarized the region and done little to address the root causes of the drug trade. Section 9, From Sanctions to Silence, the Ineffectiveness of US Policies. The US response to China's growing influence in Latin America has been largely ineffective. Its reliance on sanctions and regime change efforts has backfired. The US has imposed sanctions on Venezuela and Cuba for decades. These sanctions have done little to change the behavior of these governments. They have only served to harm ordinary people. The US has also supported efforts to overthrow governments in Latin America, such as in Venezuela in 2002 and Bolivia in 2019. These efforts have been widely condemned as interference in the internal affairs of sovereign nations. They have only strengthened anti-American sentiment in the region. Section 10, A New World Order, Latin America in the Chinese Century. The balance of power in Latin America is shifting. China is now a major player in the region. This has profound implications for the US and for the future of Latin America. The US can no longer take its dominance in the region for granted. It will need to develop a new approach to Latin America. An approach that is based on mutual respect, partnership, and shared interests. For Latin America, China's rise presents both opportunities and challenges. China offers a new source of investment and trade. However, it also poses a risk of economic dependence. The 21st century is shaping up to be the Chinese century. Latin America will be a key battleground in this new world order.